which relies on the Earth's magnetic field for orientation.
So birds, sea turtles, and other migratory animals might have a hard time finding their way.
Exactly. A supercharged magnetic field
Hmm.
could disrupt their internal compasses, leading to confusion and potentially even mass strandings.
That's a consequence I hadn't considered before. It seems like a stronger magnetic field is not always better.
Precisely. It's
Yeah.
all about balance. While the magnetic field plays a vital role in protecting us from solar radiation, extreme fluctuations in its strength could have unintended consequences for life on Earth.
This deep dive is really making me think about the interconnectedness of Earth's systems and how even like seemingly small changes can have ripple effects throughout the planet.
That's a key takeaway. Everything is interconnected, and understanding those connections is essential for appreciating the delicate balance of our planet.
Okay, so we've discussed the water canopy, the supercharged magnetic field, and the scientific challenges they face. But the video also mentions another intriguing idea, the possibility that the pre-flood world was a hyperbaric environment, similar to what's experienced in hyperbaric oxygen chambers.
Ah, yes, the hyperbaric hypothesis. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
But like the other claims, it needs to be examined carefully.
Let's dive into it. What are the key arguments for and against the idea of a hyperbaric pre-flood world?
The video suggests that the pressure from the water canopy, combined with potentially higher oxygen levels, could have created an environment similar to a hyperbaric chamber,
Yeah.
potentially leading to increased oxygen absorption and potential health benefits.
So they're essentially proposing
Yeah.
that the entire Earth was like a giant hyperbaric oxygen chamber.
That's the gist of it. They argue that this could have contributed to the longevity
Yeah.
described in the Bible, as well as the large size of some prehistoric creatures.
That's a bold claim. But wouldn't such a high-pressure environment also pose challenges for human physiology?
Absolutely. Prolonged exposure to high pressure can have detrimental effects on the human body, leading to conditions like decompression sickness and nitrogen narcosis.
So while hyperbaric oxygen therapy can be beneficial in controlled settings, it's a different story when applied to the entire planet and all its inhabitants.
Exactly. The video glosses over the potential negative consequences of a global hyperbaric environment. And even if we grant them the possibility of increased oxygen absorption, it's unlikely to be the sole explanation for those biblical lifespans.
It seems like they're cherry-picking the potential benefits
Yes.
while downplaying the potential risks. But what about their claim that the large size of some prehistoric creatures, like giant insects, supports the hyperbaric hypothesis?
While it's true that some insects were significantly larger in the past, attributing their size solely to higher oxygen levels and pressure is an oversimplification.
So there are other factors that likely contributed to their size.
Absolutely. The evolution of insect size is a complex process influenced by various factors, including atmosphere composition
Temperature.
and predator-prey relationships. And while higher oxygen levels might play a role, it's not the whole story.
It seems like the video is simplifying complex scientific concepts to fit their narrative.
That's a valid observation. It's important to approach these claims with a critical eye and consider the broader scientific context.
Well, this deep dive has certainly shed light on the complexities of the water canopy theory, the supercharged magnetic field claim, and the hyperbaric hypothesis. It seems like the video presents some intriguing ideas, but they don't necessarily hold up under scientific scrutiny.
That's a fair assessment. While it's great to explore unconventional theories, it's crucial to evaluate them based on, evidence and scientific principle.
Okay, so we've tackled some of the video's more outlandish claims, but they also delve into the fossil record, suggesting that the abundance of coal on Earth
Hmm.
points to like a lush, vibrant pre-flood world.
Ah, yes, the coal argument.
Right.
It's a classic point used to support the idea of a radically different pre-flood environment.
What's the scientific perspective on this claim?
While the video suggests that the sheer volume of coal deposits is evidence of a unique pre-flood environment, geologists generally attribute the formation of massive coal deposits to specific periods like the Carboniferous, long before humans even existed.
So the video's timeline doesn't quite align with the established scientific understanding of coal formation.
Exactly. The Carboniferous period, roughly 300 to 360 million years ago, was characterized by vast swamp forests that eventually formed the coal deposits we see today. This predates the time frame typically associated with the biblical flood narrative.
So while the video uses coal as evidence, it seems they're overlooking the established scientific consensus on coal formation and its place in Earth's history.
That's right. It's important to consider the broader context and the existing scientific evidence when evaluating these claims. While the video raises some intriguing possibilities, we need to be cautious about accepting them without further investigation.
Okay, so we've established that the video's interpretation of the fossil record, particularly the coal argument, doesn't necessarily align with the established scientific understanding. But what about those biblical lifespans themselves? Could there be any scientific basis for the idea that humans once lived much longer lives?
That's a question that has fascinated scientists and scholars for centuries.
Mhm.
And while the lifespans described in the Bible are far beyond what we consider scientifically plausible today, there are a few perspectives to consider.
I'm all ears. Let's explore those different perspectives.
One perspective is that the ages mentioned in the Bible are symbolic rather than literal. They might represent a different understanding of time or
Mm.
be intended to convey a sense of timelessness or spiritual significance.
So those 900-year lifespans might not be meant to be taken literally.
From this perspective, no. The focus is on the metaphorical meaning rather than the actual number of years lived.
That's an interesting interpretation. What other perspectives are there?
Another perspective is that the ancient methods of measuring time were different from our modern calendar system. What they considered a year might have been a shorter period, like a lunar cycle or a season.
So if we were to translate those ancient timescales into our modern understanding of years, those lifespans might be significantly shorter.
Exactly. It's a possibility worth considering. And then there's the perspective that those lifespans, while exaggerated, might reflect a time when environmental conditions were more favorable for longevity.
So tying back to the video's claims about a pristine pre-flood world with a water canopy, a supercharged magnetic field, and a hyperbaric environment.
Precisely. While those specific claims might not hold up scientifically, it's possible that early humans did experience longer lifespans compared to later generations, even if they didn't reach those biblical extremes.
So while we might question the literal interpretation of those ages, there could be a historical basis for the idea that humans once lived longer lives.
It's a possibility that warrants further investigation. And it's a reminder that the quest for understanding the past is an ongoing journey filled with intriguing mysteries and potential discoveries.
This deep dive is really making me reconsider my assumptions about the past.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to explore these alternative perspectives and to see how scientific evidence can both challenge and support ancient claims.
I agree. It's all about maintaining an open mind, evaluating evidence critically, and being willing to revise our understanding as new information emerges.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've explored the water canopy theory, the supercharged magnetic field claim, the hyperbaric hypothesis, the fossil record, the different interpretations of biblical lifespans, and even delved into the science of aging itself.
It's been a comprehensive exploration, and I think it highlights the importance of approaching complex topics with a balanced perspective, considering both the scientific evidence and the historical context.
Absolutely. But before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your thoughts on one final aspect of the video, their emphasis on a pre-flood world as a paradise lost, where humans lived in harmony with nature and enjoyed exceptional longevity.
Ah, yes, the Paradise Lost narrative. It's a compelling and enduring theme that resonates with many. But from a scientific standpoint, we need to be cautious about romanticizing the past.
What do you mean by that?
While it's tempting to imagine a pristine pre-flood world, it's important to remember that life has always been a struggle for survival. Even in the absence of human-induced environmental changes, nature is a complex and often harsh environment.
So even if we accept the video's claims about a different environment in the past, it wasn't necessarily a utopia.
Exactly. There would still have been challenges, predators, diseases, natural disasters, and the constant struggle to find food and shelter.
It seems like the video is projecting a somewhat idealized vision of the past onto a narrative that might not fully align with a reality.
That's a valid point. It's important to avoid overly romanticizing the past and to recognize that challenges and struggles have always been part of the human experience.
This deep dive has really been an eye-opener. It's challenged me to think critically about the information presented in the video and to consider the broader scientific context.
That's the goal. It's all about fostering critical thinking skills and empowering you to evaluate information independently.
Okay, so we've deconstructed the video's claims about a pre-flood paradise and brought a more balanced perspective to the discussion. But before we move on, I'd like to touch on one more intriguing idea that the video mentions the concept of genetic entropy.
Ah, yes, genetic entropy. It's a concept that's often invoked in discussions about creationism and the origins of life.
I have to admit, I'm not familiar with that term. Can you explain it to our listeners?
Yeah. Essentially, genetic entropy is the idea that the human genome has been accumulating mutations over time, leading to a gradual decline in genetic quality and, by extension, a decrease in lifespan and overall health.
So it's like our genes are slowly degrading over generations.
That's the basic premise. Proponents of genetic entropy often argue that this decline began after a period of perfection, such as the creation event described in the Bible.
Interesting. But does this concept align with what we know about genetics and evolution?
That's where things get a bit tricky. While it's true that mutations occur and can be harmful, the vast majority of mutations are either neutral or slightly beneficial.
So not all mutations are bad.
Exactly. Mutations are the raw material for evolution. They introduce variation into the gene pool, allowing populations to adapt to changing environments.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm.
But the video seems to be suggesting that mutations are primarily detrimental and have led to a decline in human health and lifespan.
That's the perspective they're presenting. However, this view doesn't fully account for the mechanisms of natural selection and the role of beneficial mutations in driving evolutionary progress.
So while mutations can be harmful, they can also be beneficial and are essential for adaptation and survival.
Precisely. The concept of genetic entropy oversimplifies the complex processes of mutation, selection, and evolution.
It seems like the video is cherry-picking certain aspects of genetics to fit their narrative while overlooking the broader scientific understanding.
That's a valid observation. It's important to approach these claims with a critical eye and consider the full scope of scientific evidence.
Well, this deep dive has certainly been an eye-opener. We've explored so many fascinating concepts: the water canopy, the supercharged magnetic field, the hyperbaric environment, the fossil record, biblical lifespans, the science of aging, and now genetic entropy.
It's been a whirlwind tour of science, history, and philosophy. And I think it highlights the importance of critical thinking, curiosity, and a willingness to challenge our assumptions.
Absolutely. But before we wrap up, I'd love to touch on one more aspect of the video that struck me as particularly intriguing. They seem to suggest that the pursuit of longevity is somehow a rejection of spirituality or denial of the afterlife.
That's an interesting observation. It seems like they're drawing a connection between scientific advancements aimed at extending lifespan and a decline in faith or a disregard for the spiritual realm.
Exactly. But is that a valid connection to make? Can't the pursuit of scientific knowledge and the exploration of spiritual beliefs coexist?
I believe they absolutely can. Science and spirituality are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they can complement and enrich each other.
So the video suggestion that pursuing longevity is somehow antithetical to faith might be a bit of a false dichotomy.
That's a fair assessment. It's important to recognize that there are multiple ways of understanding the world and that science and spirituality can offer different but equally valuable perspectives.
This deep dive has really been a thought-provoking journey. It's challenged me to examine my own assumptions and to consider the interplay between science, history, philosophy, and spirituality.
That's the beauty of exploration. It expands our horizons, deepens our understanding, and invites us to engage with the world in new and meaningful ways.
This deep dive has certainly lived up to its name. We've dived deep into some complex and fascinating topics, and I feel like I've emerged with a wealth of new knowledge and insights.
I'm glad to hear that. It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
But before we wrap up, I'd like to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question. If we were to achieve significant breakthroughs in longevity research, extending human lifespan well beyond what we consider normal today, what would be the implications for society, for our relationships, for our sense of purpose, and for our understanding of what it means to be human?
That's a profound question, and and it's one that we as a society need to grappling with as the possibility of radical life extension becomes increasingly real.
It's a question that goes far beyond the realm of science and touches on the very essence of our
Yeah.
humanity.
Exactly. And it's a conversation that we need to have openly and thoughtfully, engaging diverse perspectives and considering the ethical, social, and spiritual implications of such transformative advancements.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to conclude this deep dive. But before we do, I want to thank you, our expert, for sharing your insights and expertise with us. It's been an illuminating conversation.
The pleasure was all mine. It's always a joy to delve into these fascinating topics and to engage in thought-provoking discussions.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to continue exploring these ideas, to ask questions, to challenge assumptions, and to embrace the ongoing quest for knowledge and understanding.
Remember, the journey of discovery is never truly over. There are always new mysteries to unravel, new perspectives to consider, and new wonders to behold.
So keep those minds open, keep exploring, and keep diving deep. Until next time.